once again. This is part 2 of book 2 of George Eliot's novel Mid on the Floss. We have already discussed first 4 chapters of this book 2 in part 1 of this video, and now we shall be following from chapter 5, where something new occurs when Maggie visits Tom at Mr. Stelling's academy, and now 3 people are together. Mr. Philip is there, Maggie is there, and Tom is also there. Now Maggie is now a grown-up child, and she has some development in her brain, and in such a way she is attracted by certain things, and as a result, when she looks at Mr. Philip, she's not much concerned about his deformity. She's rather more concerned about Philip's qualities. For example, when she sees that Philip can paint, when she sees that Philip can learn a lot, when she sees that Philip speaks quite softly and smiles very good as well, she's attracted by that. And the tender side of the girl is more prone to like Mr. Philip rather than remembering the promises which he made that she will not be good towards Philip. In that way, she is thinking that Philip should also have been with her in the same way as Tom was her brother, as Tom was his company. So in that way, the tender side of Maggie, who's a sister of Tom, that has been shown in this chapter. Just go down the lane into this chapter, and one is able to see what are the things in Maggie which prove attractive to Mr. Philip as well. And these are the dark eyes of Maggie, which are very different from the eyes of the people at that time. And so Philip feels much attracted towards her. Now this is something very special, that Tom, who has been asked and told by Miss Terriver that Philip is not one of the good people, Philip is one of the son of the bad people, and that is why he should keep away from him. But Maggie becomes the bridge between the two. She is the sister of Tom, and then she is going to be the friend of Mr. Philip, and as a result, both of these boys are connected because of this girl. And so Maggie's role becomes really very important when Philip feels much attracted towards Maggie. If we go down further into the chapter, we find that there's some incident takes place because of which both of these boys come even together. We remember in the last 4th chapter, Mr. Tom had borrowed the sword of Miss Poulter in order to play with that, and Tom was showing his prowess to Maggie in order to show that he was a man and he could play with the sword. But all of a sudden he could not control the sword, and Maggie started to cry at that time. She ran away from that time, and the sword could not be controlled. It fell on the foot of Tom, and as a result, Tom's foot was injured, and the whole activity was discovered by Mr. Stelling as well. So that is the most significant incident that goes to show again Tom's nature, that he's got a very boyish nature, who want to show their power, who want to show their physical prowess, and who want to show that they can play, they can prove themselves, the warlike people, and as a result, certain bad results may also be there. And one of the bad results, we have seen that Tom's foot is injured. So Maggie is crying right now. Philip is also looking at that, and he too wants to help Mr. Tom, and ultimately Tom is taken away by the doctor, and he is given a chance to be quiet for some time. Chapter 6 has been labeled as the love scene, and in that chapter actually we see that Philip and Maggie come together. Tom is injured, he's taking rest, and this is the occasion that Maggie is more and more involved with Miss Philip, and Philip also tries to please Maggie as much as possible. For example, by singing song, by telling stories, and by showing the paintings. In that way, the softer side of Maggie is attracted towards Philip, and she's really very happy. And more so, Mr. Philip is also, as we have seen in the last chapter, that he is attracted by the dark eyes and dark hair of Maggie, and he therefore shows and expresses his feeling towards Maggie by saying that okay, he though cannot claim to be Tom-like, he cannot claim to be a lover of Maggie, but still he would love to be the kind of person who is in friendship with Maggie. And Maggie also agrees with that, so much so that when the time comes to leave, at that time Philip tells Maggie that okay, next time when they meet, he would love to kiss her, and he would show his love for her, though Maggie does not allow him to kiss her at that time, but still a bonding has been established. So that is why the chapter has been named in that way, that it was a type of small love scene. Philip is a person who right now is in a very good terms with Maggie. Maybe we can say also that he's very good term with Tom as well. But at home, the things are turning really very bad because the happiness of the boys to live together and to enjoy the company of each other, and Maggie's happiness that he has found new interest in life in the shape of Philip, that also disappears very soon when the news comes from the village St. Ogg's that the mill suit has been put in the court, and ultimately it has been lost by Mr. Tulliver. So Mr. Tulliver is in big trouble, and the news reaches to the kids as well, and that is why the writer has titled chapter 7 of book 2 by saying that the golden gates are passed. These golden gates could be the kind of player of Mr. Tom. It could be also the player and happiness of the company of Maggie and that of the Philip. So both of these people now return towards their home in order to share company with their father, because the father is in big trouble. And now here is the biggest possible conflict, because you see, if Maggie is attracted towards Philip and Philip's father has defeated Tom's father in the lawsuit, definitely there is some type of enmity or some type of opposition or some type of disliking going on between these two people. It will not be possible for Maggie and Philip to remain together, because naturally Maggie's father would expect that Maggie should not have any tender feeling towards Philip. In the same way, Mr. Wackham perhaps also may not appreciate that Maggie should be in love with Mr. Philip, or Philip should be having so much care for Maggie. But we are not told in that way that Wackham is going to stop anything like that. It is Mr. Tulliver who tries to stop Maggie, who makes Maggie and Tom realize that he is the victim of all these situations only because of Mr. Wackham, and so Maggie should not have any type of interest in Mr. Philip that could be hurting towards father. So that's the first dent, first fracture which comes to the golden time which possibly these boy and the girl could have found, and now it's not possible for them. In this way, we can see that part 2 of this book brings before us something which is really problematic in this novel, because it brings out what the young boys and the girl will have to behave when this is the external situation. Now these people very young are put in a situation in which they possibly being children cannot pass through very easily, but they have to take care of their passion as well. They have to take care of the passion of their parents as well. In that way, duty and love both come as the pulling and pushing forces around these children, not only for the boys but also for Maggie as well. And in this way, they learn to live in this life, they learn to live with the conflicts of life and how the problems are faced. This is what happens in the second part of this second book of Mill on the Floss, in which I have used 4 chapters in that. So by combining these 2 videos, part 1 and part 2, one is able to understand what is the gist of book 2, why book 2 has been written in that way, and what's the kind of development in the story. I should say that psychologies of the children, the grown-up children come before us, what they want to do actually, and how the world poses problems towards them and how they try to tackle with these problems. They are put into a situation, a difficult situation rather, and that difficult situation possibly makes them learn more and more, and they are trained to become better human beings. This is what the chapter has been used. However, so far the final development has not taken place, and the children have reverted back to their homes in order to share with their families and to become the part of their families and to show support towards their families. And still we have to see what happens in the further next coming chapters. So thank you very much for watching this part 2. But I would say that if you have learned something, if you have got something, if you like this video, if you have understood anything about the novel Mill on the Floss and the book 2 that has been discussed in these 2 parts, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button as well. Thank you very much. We shall be meeting in some other video of the same nature. Thank you very much for watching this. So far, let me say goodbye to you people.